My name is Emily Trump, and I'm 28 years old. I live in a modest two-bedroom apartment in Washington, D.C., where I work as a senior financial analyst for a consulting firm. Nothing about my life screams wealth. I drive a 2018 Honda Civic. I shop at Target. My furniture is a mix of IKEA and hand-me-downs from my college days. To anyone looking from the outside, I'm just another millennial trying to make it in an expensive city, living paycheck to paycheck like everyone else my age. That's exactly what my family believed too. For years, I let them believe it. I never corrected their assumptions when my mother, Lindsay, would sigh about how hard it must be for me, or when my father, David, would offer to help with my struggles. I nodded along when my younger brother Tom complained about student loans, even though I paid mine off in 18 months. I've spent the better part of a decade playing a role, and I played it well. I sacrificed dinners out to send money home. I skipped vacations to help with emergency car repairs. I wore the same winter coat for 6 years while my savings account quietly grew into something I never spoke about. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, or like your sacrifices go unnoticed, this story is for you. Hit that subscribe button, because what happened next changed everything, ***. It was Sunday, November 17th, at exactly 6:47 p.m. when my carefully constructed facade shattered into 1,000 pieces. We were at my grandparents' house for the monthly family dinner. My grandfather, Benjamin, had just turned 83, and my grandmother, Paulina, had made her famous pot roast. The dining room smelled like rosemary and red wine. Everyone was there, my parents, my brother Tom and his fiancée Rachel, my cousin Michael, and my Aunt Terry. The conversation was typical: sports, weather, someone's coworker's drama. I was quiet, as usual, content to listen and eat. Then Grandpa Benjamin turned to me, his eyes twinkling with that mischievous look he gets when he's about to stir the pot. "Emily," he said, loud enough that the entire table went quiet. "I was talking to Harold at the club yesterday. He mentioned you've been working with his investment firm for years now. Said you've built quite the portfolio. Something about 4.2 million? That can't be right, can it?" The room went silent. Not the comfortable silence of people chewing food. The suffocating silence of 20 years of assumptions crumbling in real time. I felt my fork pause halfway to my mouth. My mother's face had gone completely white. My father's hand froze on his wine glass. Tom's jaw actually dropped open. Rachel looked confused, glancing between me and Tom like she was trying to solve a puzzle. "Grandpa," I said carefully, setting down my fork. That's not really dinner conversation." But Benjamin wasn't done. At 83, he'd earned the right to say whatever he wanted. Harold was very impressed. Said you started investing at 21 and never stopped. Been adding to it every month like clockwork. He said you've got one of the sharpest financial minds he's seen in years. My mother found her voice first. "Emily? Is this true?" I looked around the table. Every single person was staring at me. Not with pride. Not with happiness. With something that looked uncomfortably like betrayal mixed with calculation. "We can talk about this later," I said quietly. $4.2 million? My father's voice was sharp. "While we've been..." He stopped himself, but I knew what he was going to say. "While we've been struggling. While we've been worried about you." "I think there's been a misunderstanding," I started, but Tom cut me off. "A misunderstanding? You've been letting Mom and Dad think you were barely scraping by. Dad sent you money last Christmas." "Which I returned," I said calmly. "If you'd checked, you would have seen I deposited it back into his account in January." But no one had checked. Because to them, I was poor Emily. Struggling Emily. Emily who needed help. The rest of dinner was a blur. People asked questions I deflected. The pot roast sat heavy in my stomach. By 8:15 p.m., I was in my car, hands steady on the wheel, driving home through the dark streets of D.C. My phone started buzzing before I even reached my apartment. Text after text. Call after call. I didn't want to fight. I wanted clarity. But I wasn't going to get it that night. The next morning, Monday, November 18th, I sat in my office on the 14th floor, watching the sun rise over the Potomac River. The sky was that particular shade of winter gray that makes everything look like a black and white photograph. My coffee was expensive, a luxury I allowed myself, and it sat steaming on my desk while I stared at my phone. 43 missed calls. 67 text messages. How did we get here? I've worked for Morrison & Associates for 7 years, ever since I graduated from Georgetown with a degree in finance. My job is stable, well-paying, and honestly, I'm good at it. I started at $68,000 a year, which felt like a fortune compared to my college jobs. Now I make $140,000, plus bonuses. By DC standards, it's comfortable but not extravagant. By my family's standards, it might as well be Bezos money. But here's what they never knew. I learned early that money is freedom. I was 19 when my grandmother on my mother's side died suddenly. I watched my mother fall apart, not just from grief but from the financial chaos that followed. Funeral costs. Outstanding debts. A mortgage no one knew about. My mother cried in the kitchen at 2 a.m., going through bills she didn't know how to pay, and I sat with her, feeling utterly helpless. That's when I promised myself I would never be that vulnerable. I would never be surprised by money. I would never cry over bills. I got serious about learning. I read books. I took online courses. By the time I graduated college, I had a plan. I started investing small amounts, $200 a month, then $500, then more as my salary grew. I lived below my means. I learned about index funds, diversification, compound interest. While my friends were posting Instagram photos from Ibiza, I was reading financial statements and rebalancing my portfolio. But I also never stopped helping my family. When my father's truck broke down in 2019, I sent $4,200 for repairs. When Tom needed help with his security deposit in 2020, I sent $2,500. When my mother's best friend got sick and she wanted to visit her in California, I sent $800 for the flight. Over the years, I've sent home more than $45,000. I never asked for it back. I never even mentioned it after the fact. I flew home for every crisis. When my father had his gallbladder surgery, I took a week off work to help around the house. When my grandmother Paulina fell and broke her hip, I was there the next day. I showed up. I helped. I sacrificed. But here's the thing, I never kept score. That's what daughters do, right? You help because you love them, not because you're expecting applause. Except somewhere along the way, my help became expected. My sacrifices became invisible. And I became poor Emily, the daughter they needed to worry about, to help, to save. The reality of Sunday night hit me in waves. They weren't upset that I'd lied. They were upset that I'd let them believe something that made them comfortable. They were upset because now they had to reconsider every interaction we'd had for the past 7 years. My desk phone rang. It was my friend Paulina, yes, named after my grandmother, from 2 floors down in accounting. "Hey, I brought you a muffin," she said. "You look like you need it." That small kindness, that simple gesture, almost broke me. "Thanks," I managed. It's been a weird morning. Want to talk about it? I did. And I didn't. Because talking about it meant acknowledging that something fundamental had shifted in my relationship with my family, and I wasn't ready for that yet. But I was starting to realize something. Maybe it's time to stop being the one who always answers. On Tuesday, November 19th, at 2:30 p.m., I walked into the offices of Sullivan and Partners, my investment firm, on K Street. The lobby was all glass and steel, the kind of place that smells like money and leather furniture. Harold Sullivan, my financial advisor for the past 7 years, greeted me personally. He was in his late 50s, with silver hair and the calm demeanor of someone who'd seen every market crash and recovery since the 80s. "Emily," he said, shaking my hand. "I want to apologize. Benjamin mentioned he'd be seeing you at dinner, and I thought he already knew about your portfolio. I had no idea." "It's fine, Harold," I said. "Actually, it might be the best thing that could have happened." We sat in his corner office overlooking the city. I had called ahead and asked him to prepare specific documents. Now they sat on the mahogany desk between us. "I want to make some changes," I said. "Specifically to my estate planning." Harold nodded slowly. "What kind of changes?" "I want to remove my parents and brother as beneficiaries. I want to redirect everything to charity. The American Cancer Society, the Georgetown Scholarship Fund, and the DC Food Bank. Split 3 ways." Harold's expression didn't change, but I saw his fingers tap once on the desk. "That's $4.2 million you're redirecting." "I'm aware. Emily, this seems like a decision made in the heat of the moment. Family conflicts are. Are you going to help me or not?" He studied me for a long moment. "Are you sure?" I thought about Sunday night. About my mother's shocked face. About Tom's accusatory tone. About my father's unfinished sentence, while we've been what? Worrying about me? Pitying me? Or, and this was the thought that kept me up all night, while we've been planning on inheriting something? If you've ever had to set a boundary with family, you know how hard this moment is. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what happened next, because the fallback was immediate and intense, ***. "I'm sure," I said. Harold pulled out the documents. We spent the next hour revising my will, my beneficiary designations, my power of attorney. Everything. By 4 p.m., it was done. My family's names were nowhere in my financial life. "They'll need to be notified," Harold said. "Standard procedure." "I understand." By the time I left his office, my phone had already started ringing. 17 missed calls. My mother. My father. Tom. Rachel. Even my Aunt Terry, who I'd barely spoken to in months. I turned off my phone, went home, and poured myself a glass of wine, a $40 Napa Cabernet I'd been saving. I took it out onto my small balcony, even though the November air was cold enough to see my breath. I sat there as the sun set, watching the city lights come on one by one, and I let the memories wash over me. I remembered the Christmas when I was 14, and my mother had found a bag of gifts hidden in my closet. I'd bought them with babysitting money. She'd cried and told me I was the sweetest daughter in the world. I remembered helping Tom study for his SATs when he was a junior and I was home from college. He'd hugged me afterward and said I was the best sister anyone could ask for. I remembered my father teaching me to drive, patient even when I stalled the car 6 times in a parking lot. He'd said I was a natural, that I'd do great things. But I also remembered other moments. Smaller moments. The ones that didn't seem important until they formed a pattern. I remembered Tom's graduation party, when I'd flown home and brought a $200 gift card for his new apartment. My cousin Michael had brought a 6-pack of beer. But when people asked what Tom got, he'd mentioned Michael's gift and not mine. I remembered my mother's birthday dinner last year, when I'd paid for the entire meal at the expensive restaurant she'd always wanted to try, $3.40 total. She'd posted photos on Facebook thanking my wonderful family without mentioning who actually paid. I remembered my father asking how I was doing financially, and when I said I was fine, he'd laughed and said, "Sure you are, kiddo. We all say that." And I remembered Rachel, Tom's fiancée. The woman who was planning a $40,000 wedding and had jokingly asked if I could help with the photographer costs since I was so good with money. When I'd said I couldn't, she'd posted on Facebook later that day, "When family can't even help with your special day, LOL." That LOL. That emoji. That casual cruelty dressed up as humor. At 8:47 p.m., my doorbell rang. Then again. Then 3 more times in rapid succession, followed by pounding. I knew who it was before I looked through the peephole. Tom. I opened the door. He pushed past me into my apartment, his face red, his eyes wild. "What the hell, Emily?" "Hello to you too," I said, closing the door. "You removed us from your will? Are you serious right now?" I updated my estate planning, yes. Because of what? Because Grandpa said something at dinner? You're going to punish the whole family because of one awkward conversation? I walked to my kitchen and leaned against the counter. This isn't about punishment, Tom. Then what is it about? Because from where I'm standing, you lied to us for years, and now you're acting like we did something wrong. I never lied. You let us think you were struggling. No, I said calmly. I let you assume. There's a difference. That's semantics and you know it. He was pacing now, running his hands through his hair. Mom is devastated. Dad keeps asking what he did wrong. Do you have any idea what you've done to them? What about what they did to me? What did they do to you? Love you? Worry about you? Try to help you? Pity me, I said. See me as less than. Dismiss every accomplishment because it didn't fit their narrative of poor Emily. Tom stopped pacing. That's not fair. Isn't it? When was the last time Mom or Dad asked about my job? My actual achievements? When was the last time anyone in this family celebrated something I did, instead of just worrying about me? We were worried because we love you. No, Tom. You were comfortable because I was the one you didn't have to worry about being better than. The words hung in the air between us. His face went from red to pale. That's a horrible thing to say. Is it true though? You know what? You always do this. You always make everything about yourself. Poor Emily, everyone's always so mean to Emily. You know what I think? I think you kept this secret because you liked feeling superior. You liked watching us worry while you sat on millions. Something in me went very still. Very cold. Get out of my house. Emily. Get out. Now. He stared at me for a moment longer, then grabbed his coat and slammed the door on his way out. I stood in my kitchen, listening to his footsteps fade down the hallway. And I waited for the guilt to come. The regret. The urge to call him back and apologize. It never came. Instead, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, free. Wednesday morning, November 20th, I woke up to 72 missed calls and 143 text messages. The progression was almost funny in its predictability. Monday night, from Mom Emily, Please call us. We need to talk about this. We're your family. Tuesday morning, from Dad, your mother is very upset. I think you're being unreasonable, but I'm willing to listen to your side. Call me when you're ready to be an adult about this. Tuesday afternoon, from Tom, I told Rachel what you said to me. She's crying. Hope you're happy. Tuesday evening, from Rachel, I can't believe you would do this to Tom. After everything we've been planning. After I specifically told you how much the wedding means to us. This is so selfish. Tuesday 11:47 p.m. From Mom, do you know we lost the deposit on the reception venue? Rachel's parents pulled out because they heard about your money situation and think we were lying about needing their help. This is a disaster, Emily. A disaster. And then, at 3:17 a.m. Wednesday morning, from Tom, you've always been jealous. Since we were kids. This is just another way for you to hurt me. I read that one twice. Then I set my phone down and made breakfast. At 9:23 a.m., an email arrived from my mother. The subject line read, "We need to talk urgent." I opened it. Dear Emily. Asterisk, I've been up all night thinking about Sunday. I'll admit, we were shocked. You have to understand that from our perspective, this feels like a betrayal. We've spent years worrying about you, trying to help you, and now we find out you never needed our help at all, asterisk. Asterisk, but I'm willing to move past that. Family is family. What I'm not willing to accept is you punishing your brother for being upset. Rachel is devastated. The wedding is in chaos. Her parents think we're con artists now, asterisk. Asterisk, so here's what I'm proposing. We can talk about your feelings about Sunday. We can work through this. But we need you to help with the wedding first. Rachel and Tom have lost $8,000 in deposits. If you could cover that, it would go a long way towards showing that you care about this family. Then we can sit down, all of us, and have a real conversation about moving forward, asterisk. Asterisk, I love you, but you need to understand that actions have consequences. The ball is in your court, asterisk. Love, Mom. I read it 3 times. It wasn't an apology. It was a negotiation. Scratch that, it was a hostage situation. Pay the ransom, then maybe we'll talk about your feelings. I didn't respond. At 1 p.m., I met Belina for lunch at a small cafe near DuPont Circle. She ordered soup. I ordered a sandwich I barely touched. So, she said carefully. You want to talk about why you look like you haven't slept in 3 days? I told her everything. The dinner. The revelation. The will changes. Tom's visit. The messages. My mother's email. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You know what I think, she said. What? I think you've spent your whole life being who they needed you to be. And the second you stopped, they couldn't handle it. They think I'm punishing them. Are you? I considered that. No. I'm protecting myself. That's what boundaries are, Emily. And people who've never had to respect your boundaries before are going to call them punishment. We sat in silence for a moment. Then she said something that hit me like a physical blow. Love isn't supposed to come with conditions. Real love doesn't send emails with, but we need you to pay for the wedding first. My eyes burned. I nodded. You did the right thing, she said. And I'm proud of you. Those words, I'm proud of you, were words I'd been waiting to hear from my family for 7 years. This is the turning point. If this story is resonating with you, if you've ever had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your self-respect, drop a like and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Your story matters, ***. On Thursday, November 21st, at 6:30 p.m., there was a knock on my door. Not Tom's aggressive pounding. A polite, measured knock. I opened it to find my Aunt Terry standing in the hallway, holding a box of cookies from the bakery I'd loved as a kid. "Can I come in?" she asked. Terry had always been the family mediator. The reasonable one. We'd been close when I was younger. She'd been the one who encouraged me to major in finance, who told me I was smart enough for Georgetown even when I doubted myself. "Sure," I said, stepping aside. She came in, set the cookies on my counter, and I made us tea. We sat at my small dining table, and for a few minutes, we just sipped in silence. "They sent you," I finally said. "They did," she admitted. "But I would have come anyway." "To convince me to pay for the wedding?" "To see if you're okay." That surprised me enough that I looked up. "Emily," Terry said gently. "I'm not going to pretend I know everything that's going on. But I know your mother, and I know your brother, and I can guess at the kind of messages you've been getting. It's been a lot. I bet. Can I tell you what I see from my perspective?" I nodded. "You've been helping this family for years. I know about the money you've sent. Your mother told me about most of it, usually in the context of worrying about how you could afford it. She never considered that maybe you were fine. That maybe you were more than fine. She thought I was broke. She thought you were struggling because that's what made sense to her. You're young, you live in an expensive city, you have a job that she doesn't really understand. In her mind, you must be barely getting by. And when you sent money anyway, it just confirmed that you were sacrificing yourself for the family." "I was sacrificing," I said. "Just not in the way she thought." "Exactly. You were sacrificing being seen. Being known. You were sacrificing authenticity for their comfort." I felt something in my chest crack open. "The wedding chaos," Terry continued. "Rachel's parents pulling out. The lost deposits. That's not your fault, Emily. That's the consequence of them building financial plans based on assumptions they never verified. Tom thinks I'm punishing him. Is there anything that can change your mind? About the will, about the wedding money?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "No," I said finally. "Because here's what I realized, if I pay for the wedding, or if I put them back in my will, it won't be because we've healed. It'll be because they extracted what they wanted from me. Words are easy when people are desperate. But I need to see change, not promises." Terry nodded slowly. "That's fair. That's more than fair. You think I'm wrong? I think you're braver than I've ever been. I think you're setting a boundary that needed to be set years ago. And I think this family is going to have to decide whether they love you as a person or as a resource." We finished our tea. She hugged me goodbye at the door, and I watched her walk down the hallway. When she turned the corner, I closed the door and locked it. That version of myself, the one who always said yes, who always helped, who always put family first no matter the cost, stayed on the other side of that door. The wedding happened on Saturday, December 7th. I know because Michael posted photos on Instagram. It looked beautiful, smaller than the original plan, held in Rachel's parents' backyard instead of the country club, but beautiful nonetheless. They looked happy in the photos. Tom wore a navy suit. Rachel wore a simple white dress that probably cost a fraction of the original designer gown. I wasn't invited. And I was okay with that. Actually, I was more than okay. I spent that Saturday at the Smithsonian, something I'd been meaning to do for years but never made time for. I had lunch at my favorite Vietnamese restaurant. I read a book in a coffee shop. I lived my life. On Monday, December 9th, I received one final email. The subject line read, "I owe you an apology." It was from my father. "Emily, your mother is going to be angry that I'm writing this, but I need to say it. We were wrong. Not about being surprised. I think anyone would be surprised to learn their daughter had been quietly building a fortune. But wrong about what we did next. We made it about us. About what it meant for us. About how it affected us. We didn't stop to think about why you kept it quiet, or what it must have felt like to be in that room when Benjamin said what he said. I keep thinking about all the times you sent money. All the times you flew home. All the times you were there when we needed you. And I'm realizing that we took that for granted. We took you for granted. I'm not asking you to forgive us. I'm not asking you to change your mind about anything. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see you now. And I'm sorry it took losing you to get here. Your mother says you're being dramatic, that this will all blow over. Tom says you're being spiteful. But I think maybe you're just being honest for the first time in years, and we're not used to that. I love you, kiddo. I hope someday you'll let us prove we can do better. Dad. I read it once. Then I read it again. Then I saved it in a folder marked "Maybe Someday" and closed my email. It was the first real apology I'd received. But apologies aren't the same as change. And I wasn't ready yet. Maybe someday. But not today. There's a strange peace that comes with letting go. Not the dramatic kind, where you burn bridges and never look back. But the quiet kind, where you simply stop carrying what isn't yours to carry. I made myself a new rule: I will help the people I love, but I will never again light myself on fire to keep them warm. Here's what my life looks like now. I work hard at a job I'm good at, and I don't apologize for being successful. I invest my money carefully, and I don't hide it anymore, I just don't lead with it. I have friends who know me as Emily, not as a wallet or a safety net. I've started taking piano lessons, something I always wanted to do but never had time for. I go to therapy every other Tuesday. I'm learning to ask for what I need instead of just providing what others want. And my family? We're in a strange limbo. We exchange polite texts on holidays. My mother sends me articles about financial planning, which I think is her way of trying to connect. Tom and I don't speak, but Rachel stopped posting passive-aggressive things on Facebook, so that's progress. Terry checks in every few weeks, always kind, never pushy. I changed my will, and it's staying changed. If I die tomorrow, $4.2 million will go to charity. And I sleep perfectly fine knowing that. Here's what I wish I'd known sooner: sacrifice only counts if the other person sees it. Otherwise, it's just you choosing to be invisible. And you can't build real relationships on invisibility. I spent 7 years being poor Emily because it was easier than being real Emily. Because real Emily was successful and independent and didn't need saving, and that made people uncomfortable. It disrupted the family dynamic. It meant they had to see me differently. But here's the thing about being seen: it's terrifying and liberating in equal measure. I'm not rich because I'm greedy. I'm rich because I'm disciplined and smart and I started early. I'm not cold because I changed my will. I'm protective because I learned that not everyone who says they love you actually likes who you are. And I'm not wrong for setting boundaries. I'm just finally right for myself. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt like your family's ATM instead of their daughter, their son, their sibling, you're not alone. Hit that subscribe button and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Because your story, your boundaries, your financial success, they're all valid, and they're all worth protecting, ***. The hardest thing I ever did was choose myself. But it was also the best thing. And if you're standing at that crossroads right now, wondering if you're being selfish or if you're being self-preserving, I'm here to tell you that sometimes they look the same from the outside, but they feel completely different from within, ***. Trust that feeling. Trust yourself. And remember, love that requires you to be less than you are isn't really love at all, ***. Thanks for listening to my story. I'll see you in the next one.